Okay, so to continue with part 2 of the liabilities discussion, so we will now discuss what is the presentation of current liabilities. Okay, so under PAS 1 or the Philippine Accounting Standards 1, paragraph 54, as a minimum, the face of the statement of the financial position shall include these uh, following liabilities. Okay? So, the first line item would be those liabilities considered as regular in operation. So that includes trade and other payables. Okay? That includes trade and other payables. So under those line items, we have the accounts payable, the notes payable, the accruals, the dividends payable. Dividends payable, if you can remember, no, not including stock dividend payable or share dividends payable, because again, share dividends payable is not a liability. Those dividends payable only which are cash or non-cash asset dividends and other accruals. So the next line item would be current provisions, followed by short-term borrowings or those loan. Okay? Short-term loans. Next would be the current portion of the long-term debt and current tax liability. So, let us focus first on the current portion of the long-term debt. Okay? So, if you may remember, based on our uh, past discussion, no, if we are to present long-term debt in general, di ba, non-current liability siya, di ba? As what previously explained. However, a long-term debt basically has two parts in relation to its um, payability, no, or in relation to term. Kung baga, if we have a long-term debt, okay, if we have a long-term debt, out of that long-term debt, we have the current portion and we have the current portion. Okay? That is in general. Okay? The current portion of the long-term debt basically are those part of the long-term debt which are due to be paid within a year after the reporting period. Okay? While the long-term or while the non-current portion are those part of the long-term debt which are to be paid more than 12 months after the reporting period. Okay? So, the point is, no, this is true especially if your long-term debt is to be paid in installment. Okay? Meaning, there is a required payment annually. Okay? Or maybe not annually, but there is a required regular payment every year. No? So if that is the case, then that long-term debt basically should have a current portion which is that payment that is required to be paid within 12 months after the reporting date. While the non-current portion are those portions required to be paid more than 12 months after the reporting date. So, that is what we meant by this current portion of long-term debt, no? Para klaro lang din, hindi tayo, kumbaga, klaro para sa atin na ang long-term debt, although term siya as long-term debt, may current portion siya, especially if there is a requirement of a regular payment, no? However, the case is different if that long-term debt is to be paid one time only. Okay? So if that is the case, as long as the term is not yet within 12 months after the reporting period, then that long-term debt should be presented fully as non-current liability. However, if that long-term debt, the term of it is now 12 months or shorter from the reporting date, then it is to be presented as current liability. Okay? Klaro yan siya guys ha? So, next is current tax liability. Those payment of taxes within or applicable for the current period which is to be paid within 12 months after the reporting date. Okay? So, generally, what basically what do we mean by these statements is that the presentation of the current liabilities in general include these 5 line items: the trade and other payables, the current provision, okay, the short-term borrowing, and the current portion of long-term debt, and the current tax liability. Okay? So next, another concept when we talk about liability is the concept of, or another note that is very important to discuss, is the concept of estimated liabilities. So what are these estimated liabilities? So estimated liabilities class are obligations that exist, nandun na siya at the end of the reporting period, meaning sa cut-off date, nandun siya. Although, ang amount nila is hindi pa klaro. Okay? Again, klaro na as of reporting date na may liability. Ang hindi klaro is ang amount. Okay. Now, in accounting, no, when you are learning all of when we learn this topic, it should be very important to emphasize that estimated liability, okay, is different from contingent liability. Okay? Now, what is this contingent liability? Contingent liability class is a liability wherein the liability or the existence of a liability is dependent on a happening of a, or dependent on the happening of a certain event. Again, I repeat, a contingent liability is a liability that may exist dependent on the happening of a certain event. So, if we are to differentiate these two items, contingent liability, kumbaga, if iintindihin natin siya na parang mas madali in a simple term, hindi pa klaro ang contingent liability. Hindi pa klaro in terms in if mayroon ba talagang liability or wala. Whereas, ang estimated liability, mayroon ng liability talaga. Klaro na mayroong liability. Ang hindi klaro sa estimated liability is ang amount lang. Pero sa contingent liability, hindi pa klaro kung mayroong liability. May posibilidad. Depende if mangyayari talaga yung certain event. Now, example of a contingent liability. What if ang entity is mayroong ongoing case? So, the case, example lang, if matalo yung company, there is a requirement for the company to pay damages and everything. So, that payment of that damages, if matalo yung company, becomes now a liability. However, if manalo yung company sa case, then walang liability. Then that precisely is a basic example on what is a contingent liability. Okay? So, the question now is, klaro naman siya na an estimated liability should be recorded because again, klaro na mayroon talagang liability. Ang contingent liability, as to sa question kung dapat ba siyang i-report as liability or not, depends on the probability of the event. Okay? Depends on the probability of the event. If the event is highly probable, okay? If the event is highly probable, then conservatism dictates that we should report it. Okay? Conservatism dictates that we should report it. However, if hindi talaga klaro, meaning 50-50 lang yung chances, then we should not. Okay? But, if it is highly probable, then let's say, nasa mga 80 to 90% of occurrence na mangyayari yung event, then we will report contingent liability even though hindi pa talaga klaro kung mangyayari ba talaga siya or hindi. Okay? So, an example of an estimated liability are estimated liability per premium, award points, warranties, keep certificates, or bonuses. No? Now, what are these premiums? Okay, what are these premiums? Now, premiums class are those, let's say, mayroong a certain company may promotion, okay, as part of its advertising campaign. Na meaning, if you buy something, okay, if you buy something from that company, mayroon kang marireceive na, let's say, mug or a toy, okay? Depende kung ano yung gustong ibigay sa iyo ng company pag magbili ka sa kanya. Okay? Now, pag ang company ngayon naka-establish na ganito yung level of production nila of that particular item na ibibenta, okay? Of that particular item na ibebenta, it means to say na may naka-attach na talaga na expected na premium with that item na ibebenta. Okay? So meaning, pag nabenta na yan siya, it is also expected na dapat mong ibigay yung premium. No? So, that means na pag once nabenta na siya, okay? Pag once nabenta na siya, may liability na dapat ibigay mo yung premium. So, di ba? So, kung nakita nyo, kung naintindihan nyo yung example, pag once nakabenta, klaro na may liability. So, that will now become your estimated liability. Saan yung liability? Yung premium na dapat mong ibigay out of that sale. Okay? Same goes with award points. Okay? If you are familiar with these award points, yung, I don't know if nandito yan siya sa Midsaya, pero pag yung parang mga loyal cards, no, yung parang yung mga grocery na bibigay sa iyo ng card, na yung card, nag-earn yan siya ng points na pag once ma-receive, ma-achieve mo yung certain points is may bibigay sa iyo yung grocery. So, that is an estimated liability report. Warranties, no? Warranties class, 'di ba? Ito yung kumbaga pag nagbenta ka, then you are expecting na pag within a certain period of time na pag ma-damage yan siya, you are liable to repair that, you are liable to replace parts, no? So, that is an estimated liability, okay? Give certificates and bonuses, okay? So, that is estimated liability. Now, again, hindi na tayo so next is what are deferred revenue? Okay? So deferred revenue, alam ko na medyo familiar na kayo nito. Basically, in essence, 'di ba? These are income already received but unearned. So this means na-receive na natin yung pera pero wala pa tayong service or sales na na-provide. So it is our liability. Okay? So basic concept lang. If it is to be earned within 1 year, then it is current. If it is to be earned more than 12 months from the date of reporting, then vice versa, it is non-current. Okay? So next. What is a bonus? Okay. So bonus class, okay, to motivate officers and employers, most of the time, large entities, multinational companies, blue chip companies, often compensates its officers, okay, by way of bonus, no, to motivate na to hit the target, to generate higher income, okay. Large entities often compensate by way of bonus. Okay? So, this becomes a liability because at the end of the reporting date, that is only the time na ma-determine talaga kung ano talaga ang nangyari sa operation, which is, kung ano ang nangyari sa operation, that would be the basis if bonus will be granted or not, no, or a certain amount of the bonus is granted, no. So it is a liability. So klaro na may liability, hindi lang natin alam kung magkano. Okay, so the question kung magkano, there are four types of computing that bonus, no? Bonus as a percentage of income before bonus and tax, which is B equals net income times bonus rate. Simpleng computation lang. Net income multiplied by the bonus rate. Next is bonus as a percentage of income after bonus but before tax. So, ang bonus daw is kukumputin based sa net income na binawas na ang bonus, pero bago pa ibawas ang tax. Okay? Next is bonus as a percentage of income pagkatapos ng bonus at pagkatapos ng tax. Then bonus as a percentage of income pagkatapos ng tax pero bago bawasan or bago ibawas ang bonus, no? So, example tayo. For illustration purposes, we have this example. Assuming na a certain company has a net income of 5,500,000, then the bonus rate is 10%, then the income tax rate is 30%. So, under method 1, bonus as a percentage of income before bonus and tax, simple ang computation. Net income multiplied by the bonus rate. So, that equals 550,000. Okay? So, plain and simple lang yan siya. Now, under bonus 2, medyo complicated, pero medyo lang, no? By level yung complication nito. So, bonus, bonus as a percentage of income after bonus but before tax. So, the formula is 10% the bonus rate multiplied by the net income of 5 million minus the bonus. So, kung familiar kayo sa math, we can apply the concept of algebraic expressions, no? So, following that concept, 10% times the net income, that is 550,000, then this becomes 10% of bonus, minus 10% of bonus. Transpose, okay? Then, 550,000 divided by the transpose percentage, that will give you 500,000. Okay? Next, okay? Bonus as a percentage of income after bonus and tax. Now, tumataas na yung level, no? So, again, concept of mathematical equation, what is the term for this? Representation. So, tax is equal to 30% of the net income minus the bonus. Now, question is, bakit i-minus natin ang bonus in computing tax? Because class, bonus is an expense of the company. Diba? Expense na hindi pa lang klaro kung magkano, then hindi pa lang nabayaran. That is why it becomes a liability. Pero expense yan siya. Diba? So, dapat yan siya i-bawas or i-minus sa net income in getting your tax. Okay? So, computing your bonus now, because you have now the equation for the tax. So, bonus now will be 10% multiplied by the net income minus the bonus minus the tax, which is represented by this formula which we derived earlier. No? So, following all the computation, okay, 10% times 5, so on, you will arrive at a bonus of 359,813.18. Okay? So, 550,000 minus 10% B minus 165,000. Saan to nakuha ang 165,000? That is 30%. That is 10% of 1,650,000. Diyan. Okay? Then this 1,650,000, kinuha yan siya dyan. Okay? Then this positive 30%, kinuha yan siya dyan. Diba? So, simplification, naging ganito na. 550,000 comes from 10% times 5,500,000. 10% B comes from 10% multiplied by negative B. Okay? Then further simplification, it becomes 107% here on the left side. Then, following, again, computation, yan na. Okay? So, that is how you compute bonus. Then, next, bonus as a percentage of income after tax, but before bonus, then, mas mahirap actually yung number 3. So, ito, again, represent tax. Ito yung equation natin sa tax. Ito yung equation sa bonus. Derive the formula. Ito. Naging ganito. Okay? Then, simplification, naging ganito. Positive, pag transpose mo, naging negative yan siya, kaya naging 97% na lang. Then, computation, this is your bonus. Okay? So, that is how we compute for bonuses. Again, bonuses are expenses by the company na hindi pa lang determined yung amount. Pero it needs to be paid because that is part of the compensation package of the company. It becomes an estimated liability because klaro na may liability pero wala pang amount. Okay? So next is, what are refundable deposits? So medyo familiar naman siguro kayo nito, no? What are refundable deposits? Again, this is also part of your estimated liability. So, pag nagbenta ka, Then there are certain sale transactions na requiring for you to return empty containers of that item. Then for you to, then as a security na para sauli mo talaga yung nakuha mo na container, is dapat magbigay ka ng certain amount. And that certain amount is your refundable deposit, no? This refundable deposit is very common. Example, like yan, kung ang negosyo mo is nagbebenta ka ng Coke wherein na reusable yung mga bottles, 'di ba? Nare-require tayo ng deposit. Or if ang business mo is you are a lessor or yung nagpaparenta ka, let's say ng mga rooms or ng property, commercial space, then nagre-require ka ng deposit sa mga nagre-renta sa'yo. 3 months, 2 months na security deposit, no? The security deposits are refundable. Dapat isa sa uli yan siya sa binintahan mo or doon sa nagrenta sa'yo. Okay? Doon sa nagrenta sa'yo. Now, so how do we treat that? Again, that is a liability because that money is not yours. Okay? That money is not yours. So, we have an example here, no? On how do we treat, how do we make entry for deposit, no? So, if you receive cash for the deposit, then simple lang ang entry. Debit the cash, credit the deposit. Which is, itong deposit account mo, this is now your liability. Okay. Kaya nga credit yan siya, 'di ba? Because that represents liability. Pag sinauli na yung item sa iyo, then you have now the obligation, okay? You have now the obligation to pay, to return that money. So, if returned, okay, you debit the deposit because binayaran mo na yung liability. Debit the liability, deposit. Then, correction lang, this is not deposit, but rather this is cash. Okay? This is cash class ha. Mali lang yung na-type. So, that is cash. Credit cash ka. Sinauli mo na yung pera. Okay? If this is the case, no? As of reporting date, kung nagsimula tayo ng 25,000 and nagsauli tayo ng 15, the outstanding liability now is now only 10,000. Okay? So, the question is, for this particular example, saan to kinuha yung 25,000? So, let's read the transaction, no? Excuse me. Each customers required to pay 5 pesos per 1 liter bottle daw. Okay? During the year, 5,000 bottles were sold. So, that means, during the year, you have sold 5,000 bottles, then you required 5 pesos per bottle. So, you receive 25,000 of deposit. Okay? Then, during the year, 2,000 bottles are still not returned. So, meaning, if 2,000 bottles are still not returned, 3,000 bottles were returned. So, yung dapat isasauli mo na pera is 3,000 times 5. So, that is 15,000. This entry. The 2,000 bottles still unreturned. Ito yun siya. Yung 10,000. That is 2,000 times 5 pesos. Okay? So, I guess that ends the discussion part of the liability. So, we are done with one chapter of the book. No? Next discussion, we will try to answer the exercises. Okay? We will try to answer these exercises to supplement our understanding. Okay? So, see you in the next part of discussion class.